It's hard to believe it, but it's already March and we're beginning to see a steady uplift in the number of indie game releases. Today on Get Indie Gaming, well, we're going over 10 indie games we think you should keep an eye on coming out this March 2020. Let's get this video going at number 10 with Murder by Numbers. This drops onto home PC by way of Steam, with it also coming to the Nintendo Switch on March 6th. Coming from the team at Mediatonic, Murder by Numbers is a puzzle adventurer where here you play as an actress on a hit TV detective show, determined to clear your name after being accused of killing your former boss. With you teaming up alongside a reconnaissance robot known as Scout, you'll explore a late 1990s Los Angeles while investigating a number of murders across glamorous TV studios, swanky outrageous award parties and much more. Here you dig up clues to solve the crimes by searching the city, solving puzzles and interrogating folks you meet along the way. All set to a lively soundtrack from the composer behind Ace Attorney, Ghost Trick and Beautiful Joe, this neon-drenched animated puzzler will launch for $15 US or 12 UK pounds. Coming in at number 9, Wunderling, like so many in this list, comes out early in the month, with it launching on March 5th. Unusually in this one though, you play not as the hero but as a so-called low-level video game goon, having just unlocked the ability to jump. You're also not able to change or move direction and will need to make use of the environment around you to jump and move from platform to platform. In this side-scrolling puzzle platformer, this all looks wonderfully silly, with it offering character customization, some cutesy looking pixel art, and your main aim being to track down the game's real hero and show him who's boss. Wunderling will launch first via Steam and the Switch, with perhaps other platforms to follow.
We stand on the precipice of history. Our teams have been working with some of the country's top scientists.
We need proper assurances about these nanocells, Dr. Tennant.
Why should we continue to bankroll someone so young?
Now at number 8, The Complex is coming out on March 31st and offers a cinematic interactive FMV. After a major bioweapon attack on the City of London, two scientists find themselves in a locked-down laboratory with time and air running out. Written by Lynn Renee Maxey, part of the Emmy Award-winning team from The Handmaid's Tale, this choose-your-own adventure game features 8 different possible outcomes and comes with real-time relationship and personality tracking. Here your choices and actions affect how certain scenarios and the overall ending are played out. At the end of each playthrough, players are given a personality score and a breakdown of how you played the game. It looks at 5 basic dimensions of personality, such as your openness, agreeableness, and neuroticism. With a storyline that feels close to the bone, giving ongoing events worldwide, FMVs can and often are hit and miss affairs, although we have our fingers crossed for this one. The ability to pause the gameplay for improved audience participation for streamers is a nice little touch, and The Complex comes to PCs via Steam and all of the current generation's usual consoles. Coming up next at number 6 and out on March 3rd, Puddle Knights is a puzzle game of more than 100 levels, with it all about wits, chivalry, and, well, more than a splattering of mud and puddle gunk. You'll play as a valiant knight with the aim of escorting your social betters of ladies and bishops across levels without letting their shoes or hems getting all dirty. This looks a fun and general casual affair, although from what we've seen of the action, some of the puzzles are simple enough and yet others are decidedly brutal. Thankfully, or not depending on your individual take on such things, there's also no timers to have you clock watching. There's also the ability to undo moves and restart each level how you see fit, with there being no penalties for doing so. At launch, the game is single player only, although there's plenty going on with Puddle Knights to keep puzzle fans busy for a good long while. Puddle Knights is coming out firstly to PC and Mac, with other platforms to follow along a timeline that's to be advised. Halfway through this month's countdown, and a number 5 for March 2020, Yes, Your Grace, comes out on home PCs via Steam on March 6th. We've already had some decent hands-on play with this at EGX in London back in October, but also with a demo from late last year that featured the game's first chapter. This kingdom management simulator that's inspired by Slavic folklore sees you play, funnily enough, as the king of a medieval kingdom called Davern, where you're tasked with looking after your citizens together with many other royal responsibilities, all while guiding and shaping the lives of your 3 squabbling daughters. Such responsibilities come from listening to the stories, wants and demands of your citizens, with you deciding how best to use the limited resources you have to hand. Be this to hire generals or witches, or to forge alliances with other kingdoms, down to the more mundane. Of course, not everyone has your or the kingdom's best wishes in mind, and it's up to you to figure all this out for yourself, although one thing's for sure, you'll never be able to keep everybody happy all of the time. Next up at number 4, Hidden Through Time is the latest game from Crazy Monkey Studios, who you might remember from such games as the Guns, Gore and Cannoli series. While the premise is nothing new, Hidden Through Time is an object-hidden puzzler where you're given the task of finding certain objects and items within each of the levels. What makes this slightly different than, say, Hidden Folks, which incidentally was one of our games of the year back in 2017, is the notion that this one ships with a level editor. You're able to pull together the hand-drawn objects and people in any way you see fit, and having done so, you're able to share the handiwork with others. That's a nice little touch and retweak of what else might be another variation of the Where's Waldo genre. Hidden Through Time launches on March 12th on PlayStation 4, the Switch, Xbox One and also home PCs via Steam. You can also pick this up on mobiles via the App Store and Google Play. Up next and at number 3, Lost Words Beyond the Page comes out on March 27th, and like it or not, it's partnered with the Google Stadia service to offer this game as a 1-year tied exclusive. After the year is out, it'll also come to home PCs as well as the PlayStation and Xbox platforms. Described as an RPG 2D platformer set inside the diary of a young girl, it tells a touching tale of a journey through the grieving process, with the narrative tied into the gameplay in a pretty unique kind of a way that has you using and interacting with words and phrases to solve various puzzles. Now, this is a game we've been looking forward to seeing since we spotted it at last year's E3, and while we have access to Google Stadia service, it's an interesting move to offer this kind of timed exclusive, and given the relative small footprint of Google's current offering, we can assume the financial aspect of any such deal made sense to both the developers and the publishers. Of course, we suspect there'll be plenty of disappointed people on hearing such news, and if you're amongst them, feel free to let us know whilst keeping things civil down in the comments.
Another soul fouls my temple with every step. Tell me, pretender.
At number 2, and while Curse of the Dead Gods is only coming out in early access, this roguelike isometric dungeon crawler, well, it just looks so pretty damn good, we wanted to put it all the way up near the top of our monthly ones to watch countdown. While it features the normal fighting elements and procedural generation you see in typical garden dungeon crawlers, here in Curse of the Dead Gods, we have the ability to collect mythical relics alongside a huge array of weaponry, although with each run, corruption seeps into you, and in an interesting twist, you're able to embrace such powers or completely ignore them. The choice here is yours to take. This early access launch is said to contain around a third of the final content, though the developers have been at pains to stress, this initial taster offers players plenty of content with enough variability and replayability for it being worth picking up. Plan is to launch the full game in full before the end of the year, although we will be taking an early look most certainly when it comes out in early access on March 3rd. Our number one indie game for March 2020, and perhaps a surprise to not one single person, Ori and the Will of the Wisps from Moon Studio looks all ready to take one of our most loved games of all time to a whole new level. From what we've seen so far, we're expecting another emotional narrative, plenty of enormous and memorable boss battles, and of course, lots and lots of brain-teasing environmental-based puzzling. While the first Ori was set in the forest of Nibel, the follow-up promises to deliver an in-game world that's about 3 times the size of the original. Of course, as with any other Metroidvania, there's plenty of scope for players to revisit and come back to areas of the map as their player skills evolve. This time round, upgrades or buffs can come from unlocking spirit shards that act as modifications to Ori's abilities and fighting skills, with them being found or purchased throughout the game. Gone from the sequel is the old save function, where you manually put down a beacon which, if, like me, you're attack forgetful, meant being rather annoyingly sent back to a checkpoint that could be a whole load of time in the past. This time Ori uses a continual autosave, and when you die, you come back from pretty much the last point you found yourself. Gone too is Ori's burst of electricity attack, having been replaced by an energy sword with a basic 3-strike combo, which, to be honest, feels pretty darn meaty right from the beginning. What hasn't changed though is how the overall story clearly aims at pulling on those heartstrings, and given how impressive the overall animations are, together with the sound effects and one of the finest musical scores in any video game ever, well, this one is likely to be way up at the pointy end of many Game of the Year lists once we're through with 2020. Ori and the Will of the Wisps launches on March 11th exclusively for Xbox One and Windows 10, with it also being available on Game Pass from launch. So what games are you most looking forward to playing this March? Be sure to let us know in the comments, and while you're here, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more indie game lists, reviews and more. Many thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you all here again soon for another indie game video.